Let me ask you, do you ever struggle with getting deep into a project because you are wading through Slack notifications, email, and the day-to-day stuff that don't actually help you with your long-term vision? If so, this video is for you. Today I'm going to be sharing how I crafted my environment to save me from myself so that I could get into deep work on a consistent basis. The three things you're going to learn from this video is 1, what is deep work and why is it so important? 2 is understanding your core value and what you should be doing during every deep work session. And 3, the action steps to hack your environment for success. And stay tuned to the end of this video where hacking your environment is something that J.K Rowling did when she was writing the final Harry Potter book, and I'm going to tell you more about that shortly. I'm Catherine Lavery, I'm co-founder and CEO of Best Self Co, and my goal with Little Mite is to share productivity, leadership, and business ideas to empower creators to change the world. Firstly, what is deep work? Deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. It's a skill that allows you to master difficult things at speed and get better at what you do. Unfortunately, in offices these days, there's open floor plans, there's people on the phone, there's people talking, you're expected to be responsive on Slack or email all the time, and this decreases our ability to get deep work done. Back when I was an architect, I also worked in one of these open plan offices, and I would get so frustrated because we were expected to answer the phone, we were expected to be on our email, we're expected to answer questions if someone come up to us, but we're also trying to design this building or think through this complex problem. And I remember just getting frustrated because I wasn't able to find the time to focus on it because of all this stuff that was happening at the same time. And I didn't understand why I was getting frustrated because I didn't know what deep work was. And now that I know that, now I know that my core value was figuring out this design problem, but I'm spending all this time on other stuff, and it just wasn't fulfilling me, and it wasn't what I was there to do. In fact, back in those days, I used to get excited when my bosses would go for a meeting, or at the end of the day when everyone would start to leave, because then I'm thinking, okay, now I can actually focus on what it is that I'm supposed to be working on, and I would work later in the evening because that was the time when no one was there to distract me and I could get focused on what it is that I was trying to get done. The quality of your work is the time you spend and the quality of your focus. With so much knowledge at our fingertips and things going all the time and people constantly trying to get our attention, the people that are going to win are those that can maintain focus and that have the ability to get into deep work mode. There's a few different modes of deep work. One of the best books that I've ever read on this topic and just in general as far as productivity goes is called Deep Work. And they talk about a few different modes of deep work. The first one is monastic. Monastic is isolating yourself for a long block of time that can scale up to weeks or months. This is something that Bill Gates used to do. Every year he would go off for a few weeks and just focus on reading and figuring out a problem, and this was a 3-week time block of deep work for him. Then there's bimodal. This is when you split your weeks or months into shallow and deep work. Then there's rhythmic, which is splitting your time into deep and shallow work on a day-to-day basis. And this is something that I want to talk to you guys about today. This is something that I do on a day-to-day basis, is when I craft and time block my day into deep and shallow work. Now you know what deep work is, how do we know what to do when we're in deep work? What tasks or actions make us in deep work? The key to that is understanding your value. And this isn't a motivational message. I'm not trying to pump you up or motivate you. This is truly understanding where your core value lies and what you're being paid for. For example, a copywriter, their core skill and core value is writing. A designer's core value is designing. A quarterback's core value is throwing the ball. So while there's a lot of other things that go into those jobs, you know, if you're a football player, you have to do a lot of marketing things and show up to events and all that sort of thing. But the moment that you stop throwing the ball, the moment that you decide that's not important, your job doesn't exist anymore. That is your core value, and once you stop doing that, you're not doing the thing that you're supposed to do. So now you know what it is that I'm talking about. I want to hear in the comments below, what is your value? What is the core thing that you do that derives most value, and if you stop doing it, you would either not have a job, not have a business, or not be building something that you're currently working on. For me, I have two jobs. I am the CEO of an 8-figure e-commerce brand, and then I also create products for that brand as well as content for this channel. And so they're kind of opposite jobs. One is sort of administrative, and then the other is a creative role. So with opposite roles, what does that mean? And this is the part where we talk about how do we hack your environment so that we can make deep work something that you do consistently. So when I recently moved from New York to Austin, I realized that my office in New York didn't really allow me to be creative. And that, like I said, is half of my job. It's like one job of my life is creativity, and I was stifling it in the environment that I had in New York. Compare what you would expect a designer, creator's desk to look like, and then compare what you would expect like a CEO running a company's desk to look like. They look completely different, and yet here I was working out of the same environment, expecting completely different results by working on two roles simultaneously. So when I moved to Austin and I'm designing my office, I realized I need to have a space for my creative role and I need to have a space for my administrative role. And one could not mix with the other. So what I decided is I created two spaces. I have two desks in my room. One is my work desk and one is my creative desk. This one behind me, you can probably guess, is my creative desk. And this is what I work on for the first 3 hours every day when I get into deep work mode, this rhythmic mode that I mentioned before, and I split my days up into deep and shallow work. So every weekday I spend the first 2 to 3 hours of my day here, and my rules are 1, no meetings, 2, no calls, and 3, no technology besides my iPad Pro, because when I bring my laptop there, suddenly, I'm getting distracted with other things. I want my iPad just to be able to write on, and that's it. You would be amazed how much this just mental barrier, I mean, they're in the same room, they're just across the room from each other, but having this mental barrier between the two has allowed me to be way more creative in the last 2 months than I was in the past 10 months in New York. So let me ask you this. What skill do you have, or what task or action do you take that is most valuable, and can you create a space and a habit to do it consistently? So can you create a space for the first 2 to 3 hours of your day where you're just working on that one thing, or maybe you like to do it in the afternoon or the evening, but is there an opportunity to create a space just to work on that one thing? Now, I'm not talking about going out and buying another desk for this one thing. We all don't have the opportunity to have 2 desks in our office. This doesn't have to be a separate desk. It could just be a separate space. It could be putting like a tablecloth over your kitchen table, and this is where you work during this period of time. It could be in a chair in your living room where you go to write. It doesn't have to be a completely separate desk or office or anything like that. I mentioned earlier in this video, J.K. Rowling used to do this by booking a room in an expensive hotel. So the first time she did this, she was struggling to get her writing done at home. So she got a room in a hotel, an expensive hotel, thinking, okay, if I put money on the line and I'm here for a purpose, then I'll actually write. And so what happened was she went there and she did write, and so she ended up staying there for a few weeks finalizing the book. Because she'd gone there with a purpose, she'd created an environment where she had money on the line, but more importantly, that was the only reason she was there. It was a hotel in her own city. She could have gone home, but she was there for a purpose, for a reason, and her deep work, her value was writing the final Harry Potter book. So here's the thing. If you create a habit of getting into deep work and doing your core value task or action in a certain place, your brain will start to understand what it is that you're doing there, and you're going to work more efficiently than if you're trying to do 4 different tasks in the same place and you keep switching. Your brain doesn't really know where to go. So this is a way to create a habit around your deep work mode and what it is that you're doing in a specific place, and really trying to separate those from other things that you do so you can get into this habit and make your body and your brain and everything just know, okay, I'm here to do this thing and I'm not going to procrastinate. It's also really helpful to set rules for yourself like I did, where I don't have my laptop there and I won't take meetings there or do Zoom calls, because you're much more likely to stick with it if you're hard fast with your own rules. Alright, now's the time to take action. 1, I want you to figure out what your core value is, what that one thing that derives the most value in your life, in your business, in your job. Write it down on a piece of paper. 2, what are the shallow tasks? What are the secondary tasks that you do have to do, but maybe they don't derive the most value than your core task? I want you to write your core thing and your secondary things on a piece of paper. Next is, when do you work best on that core thing? Is it first thing in the morning? Is it the afternoon? Is it the evening? I want you to take that one thing and block a time in your calendar. I would go for like 2-3 hours where you can only focus on that one thing. Next, when you're putting it on your calendar, I want you to put in where you're going to do it. Are you going to do it in your living room, in your kitchen, at a coffee shop, at your creative desk? What does this look like? And last, I want you to create rules for yourself. So write down, are you going to have your laptop there? Are you going to create a mode on your laptop so that if you create another user account and the only program on the user account is the thing that's correlated with your core value? What does that look like? So I want you to set some rules for yourself so you don't fall off track and that you can stay consistent with getting into this deep work mode. And that's it. That is what deep work is, how you figure out what you should be doing during it, and how you hack your environment so that you're more consistent and likely to do the thing.